Hi, I'm Kara.
And I'm Adam, and welcome back to Crunchy Cozy Games. We have been counting down our top 100 games of all time.
That we played in 2023.
That we played in 2023, of course. And so now we are on to 30 through 21.
The top third.
And I don't know about you, but for me, this is splitting hairs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, we ranked them, but I've been kind of keeping track of what we're playing this year, and I wonder how some of these are going to rank this year, because really, we're basing them off a single playthrough.
Yes. We did kind of, when we started this list, we set the stipulation that if we played it more than once, you could then re-rank.
Right.
And that didn't come up super, super often.
Mm-hmm.
And... I think that it will be interesting to see, how I think our lists are going to converge more in this top third than they have. I think that knowing what games are left of what we played,
right.
There are some that neither of us have talked about that I think are gonna appear. They're coming up soon.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about those and see how our favorite games compare.
Well, and I think once we start getting into this list, as I was previewing the games I was going to talk about today, just about any of these games at any given point could be my favorite game.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
It's really just who you're playing with and the playthrough that you get. These are games that I feel like don't require me to look at the rule book a lot. Like, we've played them so much that we just kind of know them by heart.
Sure.
And a few that we've only played like once or twice, but just rose to that level because they were so surprising.
Yeah. I
know on my list this time, I've got a lot of surprises. Like,
really?
Games that I hadn't played before that we played for the first time, and I was like, oh, I've got to play this more.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really kind of what sets apart this like top third. It's like that desire to want to continue to play it, right? Yeah.
These are games like when people come over and they're like, hey, what's a great game? Any of these, like, from now on are games that I'm like, oh, I'm excited about.
They're going to be like the first ones that we recommend.
Whereas I feel like, not to say that any of the games that we've talked about previously have been bad or anything like that, but it's just, okay, before we start playing, here's what you should know. These I feel comfortable, like, put it on the table. I am happy to teach it. I am happy to play it anytime.
Right. Yeah. So should we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So my number 30 game is Rococo.
Yeah. Love that one.
Yeah, so Rococo is a beautiful, beautiful game. Have we talked about this one already? Did we talk about it?
No, we've not.
Okay, all right. This is the first time. So it is gorgeous. It is also giant. The board is huge, but it is so intricate. It is so beautifully done. And this is another theme that I love. It is dressmaking, and it's just
and frock coats.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Finery making. You're a tailor that is making fancy clothing for a firework viewing.
Well, I mean, you're making it for a ball.
A ball,
yeah.
right? And
there are fireworks.
Yeah. Sure. But I really love the components in this. Like the tiny little spools of thread are just. They're so good. And like the little lace pieces, just all of the components are very well done. I think that, sometimes in games like this, pieces can be really fiddly. Yeah. And I think that, the way they made it big so that they're not.
Right.
And I think that it is just overall, like, it's a little bit complicated, but, it's a lot of like you're buying resources from a store and you're kind of trying to beat everybody else to the best things, and there's a little bit of engine building. It's like very light when you're like based on some of the things that you can buy. You can get bonuses. But yeah, it's a delightful game. It's super crunchy.
Yeah.
But it is a very fun one to play if you have the time to play it.
Right. I really enjoy that game. I think it's incredibly unique in terms of like the art style and just the production of it is incredible.
Yeah.
I guess it's worth noting that we're talking about the deluxe edition that you get from Eagle Gryphon Games. There was an earlier edition that is since out of print that wasn't as deluxe, but I mean, yeah, this one is deluxe and it shows.
Yes, it's very pretty. Yeah, so number 30 for me is Rococo.
All right, my number 30 is actually a little something completely different. It's very puzzly, and that is Honey Buzz.
Oh, okay.
So Honey Buzz is this curious little game where you are essentially controlling capitalist bees, for lack of a better term, and you are basically building out your hive with these double hexagonal pieces, and depending on what pattern you put those in, you'll make a different type of honey. And so as you're doing that, the honey is coming down off you can kind of control the honey market, because every time you make honey, it reduces, or sell honey, it reduces the price for the next player.
Sure.
So it's kind of a race to get different types of honey. But I just found the puzzle aspect of it so charming. There's also each of the little pieces that you get that you're putting into your hive, they have an action that you can take as well. So some are things like you can activate, you can produce more honey, or you can take another action. And figuring out ways to kind of combo those different actions so that you produce, then sell, then do something else. I found that puzzle to be really exciting.
Yeah.
Plus, bonus points, the honey is very squishy.
It is. I feel like have we talked about the honey before?
I don't know. Has it been on your list?
No, it hasn't.
Interesting. Well, I don't know why we talked about the honey then before, but it's great.
Yeah.
The honey is great. I love it. My number 30 is Honey Buzz.
All right. My number 29 is Septima. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one that you've talked about already. It is, kind of a witch trial theme, which is, it sounds like, but
it does sound like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Septima.
But it's very fun.
Mufasa.
It's a very fun game. It's another one that's pretty heavy. There's a lot going on. But I really enjoyed the unique way that you play cards, where, you can get extra power to your actions by matching with somebody. But, that could come with a penalty. Right. And I don't know that I 100% had it figured out. I think that there are some aspects of the game, like the, bringing witches to your coven and having them be on trial. That part, I think, blew by me a little bit, but I still really, even despite that, I really, really enjoyed playing this game.
It's very charming. It's another one, like you were talking about with Rococo, that the production of it is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
And so this was, again, a Kickstarter deluxe edition. I think the one that's coming to retail, I don't know that it's arrived yet.
Oh, okay.
Won't have as many elements to it that are as nice,
sure.
But it's a beautiful game, great storage solution too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the nicest things is that the insert is it fits those little potion bottles just so perfectly, beautiful. And you play it out of the insert as well. You use that as your resource manager during the game, your bank.
I will say, I think the difference in your ranking compared to mine is that mine was a little bit lower, and I was the person that had to kind of learn the game to then teach it. And
sure.
I think maybe it's ranked higher for you because you got to learn from me.
That's fair.
Whereas I had to learn from the rule book.
Sure.
And I think the rule book is actually really well written, but it is over 20 pages.
Yeah, it's a beast.
So it's a very dense game, but I think you can break it down conversationally and demonstrate a lot better than you can just read it and grasp all the concepts behind it.
Yeah.
So I constantly felt stressed because people would ask me questions. I was like, I don't know, let me find it in the rule book.
We're going to have to do a video where we talk just about rule books and our thoughts on them. We have thoughts.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot of rule books that are just not good.
It's true. For me, number 29 is Septima.
Okay, for me, number 29, as I mentioned, we talked about surprises. So this is a series that I had heard a lot about, but I had never particularly been super interested in it. And then we played this first one, and I was hooked.
Sure.
And that is Trekking Through History.
Oh, yeah.
So Trekking Through History, I think you've already talked about it a little bit, but it's one where you are essentially making a I don't know how you would describe it. You're making like a travel plan through history.
Yeah.
So like you're just imagining that you have a time machine and you're doing like a guided tour through famous historical events. It's a very easy to pick up and play type of game. You've got these like itinerary cards that you are trying to fill with the icons that are at the bottom of the cards. And there's a store of 5 or 6 cards that you're pulling from. And the ultimate goal is that you want to create a chronological tour through history, because that's going to score you the most points, but then you're also filling out your itinerary card with the different icons. And so if you can budget both, then you're doing great.
Right.
It's a little tricky, but it's also super neat, and it's very satisfying when you get it right.
It is. It is. I had a very good time playing that game as well.
Yeah, and it's one of those like surprise educational, flip the cards over and you can actually learn why this historical thing was super important. But yeah, I just really kind of fell in love with that. And then we've already talked about Trekking the World, which kind of does the same thing around the globe.
Yes.
But
similar concept.
29, Trekking Through History.
Very nice. My number 28 is one that you've talked about already, and that's Viticulture. Yeah. So I really liked Viticulture. It is a great worker placement game. I love the big meeple that lets you double the action. The grande meeple. I think that's a really clever way to give you an action when you wouldn't normally be able to take it based on the available space. Or let you double in action if you've already taken it. So I really enjoy this game. I also just love the theme. I mean, I love wine. And, you know, as far as like the board is very satisfying with sliding over the little like glass beads.
Yeah, it is. I like that a lot. Now, just the other night, I unboxed Tuscany, the expansion.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that too.
I am too. I think the thing that's interesting about it is that it actually gives you more. So it creates a full season for summer and or spring and fall,
instead of just having that be a card draft.
Right. Exactly. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out. I think it's going to add a lot to it.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that as well. Yeah, 28, Viticulture.
All right, 28 for me is a game that is incredibly charming because one of the first things you do is you build the tree, and that is Everdell.
Nice.
Everdell is kind of a devious little card drafting game and tableau builder.
Yeah.
Where it's one of the only worker placement games that I've played where you actually add workers as you go. Because usually it's the opposite way. You start with more and you run out as you go. The first couple of times we've played this, it never resonated with me. It didn't really
click with you, honestly. I'm surprised it's this high on your list.
Well, this last time that we played it, it really clicked.
Yeah, we also played it with more people. We played it with 4.
We did play it with 4, and I mean that could have been. I think that might have helped the market kind of reset a little bit more than when 2. But yeah, this game you're basically drafting these different cards with anthropomorphic animals on them.
Oh, they're so cute.
It's very cute that run their little animal businesses in the forest, and just like with Seven Wonders, a lot of those cards then lead to other cards that you can draft either for free or reduced resources. When that's so important, because this also has a worker placement element to it where you're placing your adorable animal meeples on specific spaces, and once those are filled, you can't take that action anymore. It takes place over 3 different seasons. You have spring, then summer, then fall, and you're always adding workers when you're finishing up seasons. I think thematically, one kind of the weird things is different players can be in different seasons.
Yes,
just because if you can take actions as long as you either have cards to play or workers to place. And then on your turn you can either play a card or use a meeple to place a worker. And I think that's a little strange to wrap your head around until you've played it more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that if the alternative is that everybody has to wait, and then somebody just gets to, like, that would be a strategic move that you could take, would be to take a really long time so you just get to play over and over and over again and just take whatever cards come up. Whereas the season jump, whenever you finish, you know, it allows the turns to continue in turn order rather than having like a weird like end of round drag.
Yeah. No, it totally works. I just really like it a lot. It's a very charming game. We have not played with any of the expansions before.
We have not.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's a little daunting to try and figure out, like, well, what should we play next? But honestly, there's so much charm in this game that I've not felt the need to pick up any expansions for either. So
it's also not one that makes it to the table a super whole lot.
Right.
So we haven't, I don't know that
it's a big treat.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, my number 28 is Everdell.
My number 27 is Honey Buzz.
There it is.
Yeah. I really like this game. I thought it was really cute. I think the double hex is a really unique tile lane bit. And it creates some really interesting puzzles in figuring out how to maximize the honey using both sides of that hex. Because you can focus all on one section, and then you look at the ones that are attached to that, and you're like, oh, what have I done? So I think it makes that puzzle really interesting and really engaging. And then, like you said, like the little squishy honey bits are just
adorable.
They're so cute.
We do our like best bits video.
Yes,
definitely be in there.
Absolutely, yeah. 27 Honey Buzz.
All right, 27 for me is one of the surprises this year. So one of our traditions is on our birthdays we go out and we are allowed to pick out one game. So on Kara's birthday, she's allowed to pick out a game with no notes for me. I can't tell her anything about it. She just picks it out based on what she likes. And then I do the same. For my birthday this year, we picked up a game called Distilled. And in Distilled, what you are doing is you're essentially a brewmaster. I mean, you are making spirits or alcohols. And what alcohol you're choosing to make usually depends on which person that you've drawn, because they all have a specialty.
Yes.
But then you're upgrading your facility to brew with different cards, and you're getting different like
specialty ingredients,
barrels to put it in, special ingredients, special bottles to put the brew in. But the most interesting thing to me is that you're drafting these cards that you need to create whatever alcohol you're making. And so when you mix it all up, you do a brew period where you shuffle all the cards face down, and then you pull off the top one and you pull off the bottom one to simulate what it would be like to actually make a spirit,
right?
Or so I'm told.
Well, because you can't like pull everything out of the bottle. You have to like leave the bit that's like all the dead yeast and so you're
basically layering those two things out, and then what you're left with, that is the alcohol you made. So you might have accidentally lost an alcohol or accidentally lost a key ingredient, which then changes whatever alcohol you made.
Right.
You always make something, because if you end up with like none of the special ingredients, then you got moonshine. Congratulations. And sometimes you can end up with a ton of alcohol that's super boozy.
Yes.
And then you get more points for that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just a really neat themed game with a very interesting mechanism that I just greatly enjoy. So yeah, my number 27, Distilled.
Okay, 26 for me is Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah.
This is a super fun game that we picked up it's fairly recent to our collection.
Well, so we have the special edition.
The special edition
that came out this past year.
Right, with the like awesome castle pieces.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, this is a really fun game. It's kind of a classic, right?
Yeah.
So I enjoy the the chance that comes with the dice rolls.
Yeah.
On which things you're allowed to take. I love picking which animal you're going to collect. I do enjoy the pieces themselves. I think that the art is beautiful. I don't know if that's a new addition as well, but I enjoy this game a lot.
It's great. I mean, it's, again, we played it for the first time this year after I heard so much about it.
Yeah.
And it is just one of those games that you play, and it's a point salad type of game where you're just constantly getting points.
Yeah.
But I find that so fun because you can really specialize in anything. Like Kara mentioned, you can specialize in animals, you can specialize in filling out a certain area on your map. But yeah, it's such a good game.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, so number 26, Castles of Burgundy.
All right, my number 26 is my favorite Polyomino game, and we're going to be visited by one of our mascots here. Hi, Rico. My favorite Polyomino game, Baron Park.
Ooh.
I just love the simplicity of this game. It is one where you start out with 2 tiles. You can place those tiles, and once you place the first one on the edge, then everything else has to be adjacent to a tile that you've already laid. Your goal is to fill your grid out, and once you fill up your grid as best you can, then you get a little statue on the manhole that gives you victory points. The best part about this is when you place whatever tiles you're placing, they cover up different things. Like it might cover up construction workers, or it might cover up an excavator, or the cement mixer, or something like that. And that decides what tile you get to pull next.
Gives you access to different kinds of pieces.
Right. And so you're just constantly getting stuff, and you're kind of like planning out like, okay, if I can cover up this on my next turn, then I get to draw this tile. And then of course, you're not just limited to a single grid. You get 4 of them that you can put in any arrangement. You can have all 4 of them side by side. You can make a square with them. You can have 1 on top and 3 on the bottom. It's totally up to you, which I really like a lot as well, because on most Polyomino games, of course, you can't overlap off the edge of the board. And in this one, you can't do off the edge of the board, but you can absolutely put a tile that connects 2 of them.
Yeah.
So it gives you a lot of different options
It
that
does.
way.
It does.
It's just a very charming game.
It
I like
really
it a lot.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, so number 26 for me, Baron Park.
25 for me is Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Okay.
Yeah. I really love the revealing of the floor tiles.
Yeah.
I think it's so fun to just at the beginning of the game, just exploring the house and figuring out, what's there, what rooms are there, and finding items, and then just the anticipation that builds as you get more and more omens, and that dice roll is just it's just there's so much intensity, and then there's so much speculation. Somebody picks up a super cool item and you're like, "Ooh, I really hope you're not the traitor."
I'm still remembering the time that you were the traitor, and you were 1 space away from throwing whoever you needed to sacrifice into the pit.
Yep,
I was so close.
I was so close. That was a really fun game.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Good one in the end.
I don't think I've ever played this game where the betrayer has won.
Huh. I want to say I have, but I don't.
It's been a while if I
remember. Yeah. But yeah, 25 for me is Betrayal at the House on the Hill.
Awesome.
It's a great game.
25 for me is a game that you put criminally way too low, and that is Heat Pedal to the Metal.
Sure.
So I generally don't like, racing games because they're kind of boring to me. You roll a dice, you move that number of spaces. And Heat is absolutely a racing game, but it is, quite frankly, the most interesting racing game that I have ever played.
I'll give you that.
You've got a deck of cards that you're using to control your speed, and whatever gear you're in, that corresponds to how many cards you have to play. So if you're in 4th gear, you got to play 4 cards. If you're in 2nd gear, you got to play 2 cards.
Right.
That's great because then it adds an element of risk versus reward. Like if you're coming up on a turn and you're in 4th gear. That has a speed limit. Yeah, because if you go around a turn too fast, then you're going to add heat to your deck, which are essentially garbage cards to clutter it up. But that is so cool because you can, if you are turning a corner and you're going way too fast, you might have the lucky pull where you can get around that corner under the speed limit for it because you've got a 0 card and a 1 and another 1, a 2. But if you take that too fast, you're going to get junk into your deck. But there's some great satisfying moments where you're just like, okay, I'm going to push this one. I'm going to risk it a little bit, take a little bit of heat so that I can get in front.
Yeah.
And then all added to that, there's the aspect of just the way that the cars move. So if you get behind the leader, then you can also slipstream to jump in front. It's a really satisfying game that it's still racing. It can move very quickly, but it adds a whole ton of strategy to it that is just so fun. And I am really excited about playing that one more. And there's an expansion for that one coming out this year.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So I just can't wait to do that one again.
Yeah. Here we go. For me, next 24 is Century Spice Road.
Aha, I was wondering when this one was going to come up.
Yeah, you knew it was coming.
Did.
Coming sometime. So this is the worker plate, or the one that's like Splendor.
Yeah. Which apparently you like more than Splendor.
What can I say?
I think Splendor was in your like 40 range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is, I think, a better theme than Splendor itself.
Okay.
You know, like I think for me the like that's where that difference comes in.
Right.
But yeah, I really liked Century Spice Road.
Very good. Okay, 24 for me. It's another game that I was surprised was as low on your list as it compared to mine. That's Scythe.
Oh yeah.
So Scythe is it's kind of an engine builder masquerading as a war game.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, what's really interesting about this is from the box, you think it's going to be like this war game like Risk or Twilight Imperium or something like that, where you're just constantly like making deals with alliances and breaking those. Battling. And really, there's not a lot of battle in the game.
No.
Because you're kind of punished by battle.
Yeah.
If you move into another player's space, you actually lose popularity, which is something that helps you score points at the end.
Yeah.
But I think what's so interesting about this game is that it looks big and giant and scary. It looks like a heavy game that you would see people playing and be like, oh, wow, those are like Warhammer people. But it's not. It's a very simple thing. You're going to take one of 4 different actions on your turn. You can't take the same action twice in a row unless you're a very specific faction. And you either get to like make stuff or use stuff or build stuff or move. And it's just such a simple system that's really easy to understand. And those double layer player boards, I think, are incredible because
they truly are.
If you came to that game knowing nothing about it, you could look at that player board, watch a turn or two, and be like, okay, I've got this. And then the map, I just find very satisfying to just move your pieces on there and carry your resources and other like workers around.
Carry them on your mechs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I will say the first time we played it, I was a little disappointed that we didn't do more war with the mechs, but it's really grown on me quite a bit. And I find the whole game very fascinating to watch what other people do and strategize with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one I'm always happy to bring to the table. 24, Scythe.
My number 23 is Twilight Imperium. You just mentioned it.
I did.
Yeah, this was our New Year's game.
Yeah.
In 2023. It's been a while since we played it.
I know. It's a hard one to get to the table.
It's so big.
It's got a reputation for being one of those games that takes 6 to 8 hours to play, and it took us 12.
It took us a long time.
Now we did break for dinner.
We did, and we also
various baby things.
We also had he was 3 months old at that.
Yeah.
You know, we had a very small baby. And yeah, I mean, it's a big game. There's a lot going on. But I just had a fantastic time. You know, if you have the time to play it, it is worth it.
Yeah. And
it's one that, like, I would love to play a different faction. Like, I don't even remember which factions I play or which faction I played. But it's just very fun.
Yeah.
It's intense, but it's a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that because it's a war game and it's one of those that you can be eliminated, and some players may not have a good time playing it.
Sure.
I had a great time playing it.
Yeah.
Because I won. But it was also one that, you know, I was just watching the whole board as we were playing and just like, okay, that person hasn't messed with me, and they're right next to somebody that I would like to really knock out here. So maybe I can form an alliance with them, and together we can take out this player that I am worried about.
Yeah.
And I love stuff like that. It is a huge box. It is a dense game. I know that there's stuff that we did wrong that we would correct if we play again.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think games like that are so fascinating to like clear your schedule. This is what we're doing today. So yeah, we will probably hear about that game later.
I am sure. Yeah, 23, Twilight Imperium.
My number 23 is another game I was a little surprised was as low on your list as it was, and that is Acquire.
Oh, sure.
So Acquire might be one of the oldest games in our collection.
Sure.
And it is just a very simple game where all you are doing on your turn is you are playing a tile that you have, and then you're drawing a tile. But those tiles are connected to a grid of maps, and when you connect two, you start a hotel chain. Any tiles that you place that then connect to those two that you initially started, grow that hotel chain until two of them touch, and then there's a merger. This is a game that you basically are managing your stock and watching the board to see whose hotels might merge and making sure you're a majority shareholder in that, so you get more money to spend so that you can continue to outbuy everybody else in stock.
Well, and then making the decisions on when something sells, whether to sell your shares or keep them so that you have them already the next time the chain is reestablished.
Exactly. And so you can kind of have some control in that aspect, especially if you know that, you're going to restart that hotel on your next turn. I always really enjoy that of like, oh, okay, everybody else sold their stock, and I'm just going to keep mine, since everybody else sold it, and then start it immediately after that. I don't know what the actual practicality of doing that in business is. I feel like you'd get in some trouble, but it is very fun in the game.
If you can do. I mean, whatever.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a really unique game in that aspect. And yeah, I just really love it. So for me, number 23, Acquire.
22 for me is Trekking Through History.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. We're starting to get a lot of the crossover there.
Yeah. I think, we actually do have fairly similar taste.
I think that's kind of the fun. Obviously, there are things that we like together, that we play together.
Yes.
And all of these, there's very few games that are on this list at all that if I said like, hey, let's play this, you'd go, no.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, if I said, let's play Twilight Imperium tonight,
I would say no, because it's late.
Yeah.
Anyways, Trekking Through History. I think, I really enjoyed the little like clock that you're tracking turns on. I do agree that I think that the system for drafting where like the card that you have to take or that you can take has to be later than the one that you have previously taken. You can get really lucky at the beginning and get one that's a really early card,
right?
And get those lucky jumps so you have like a big spread that's gonna score you a lot of points. But, you could also get unlucky.
Right.
And end up with, like, only, like, a 3-card stack or something. Because, that's just kind of how it goes. I will say one thing that is nice is that there is a list.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That is available to you of, like, what years are represented and, like, what the dates are.
Yeah, and that segment.
So that you can kind of make a more informed decision on, which card to take next.
Right.
So
yeah, that is a really nice aspect.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated that about the game itself. And I don't know if that was on the player aid or if where that existed, but I really, really appreciated that from a like player perspective.
Yeah, that was really cool.
So yeah, 22, Trekking Through History.
All right, my number 22 is a game I'm actually surprised you haven't talked about yet, and it's another one of my biggest surprises of the year. And that's Encyclopedia. So Encyclopedia comes from Holy Grail Games, which I think closed down last year. So I don't know that it's going to be possible to still get your hands on this game. And I think that's really too bad because this is a game that is it's very unique. The idea is that you are creating an encyclopedia of different animals. You're writing these different passages with information on all the animals across the world. You want to try to specialize in a specific continent and a specific like genus of animal, and then you basically spend a turn to write that chapter and score a whole bunch of points for it based on how many you have. It's tricky for me to explain because I remember reading that rule book and it's like, okay, actions 1 through 4 that you can take are just like, you do this, you get this. And then action 5 had like 5 pages on it.
Yep.
Because it's like, okay, this is the meat and the potatoes of the game where you get everything.
It's true.
And it's what you're building up to do.
Yeah.
But I thought that was super interesting because you're essentially taking all these actions, saving all up, and then you take that final, like when you
it's like the big
write it,
thing, yeah.
you cash it all in. So it's like you get to watch your engine at work, you get to score all your points, use all your cubes, move everything
Very
out.
satisfying.
Oh, it's so satisfying. And it's, again, just one of the more unique games, I think, in our collection. And it's just really a shame that I don't know that it's going to still be produced after it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my number 22, Encyclopedia.
Number 21 for me, closing out this section of my list, is Distilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this game. I love the idea that, you know, your specialty was, like, the specialty was based on which character you picked to play as. I think, you know, there's a lot of, like, the heavy hitters of booze, you know.
Yeah, there's you can get rum and vodka and brandy.
Yeah, just like super super fascinating. Also to kind of like read some of the information about those characters and like the history of that alcohol. It's so fascinating. But you know that the game itself, it was definitely a surprise. I wasn't really sure what to think about it because it's one, you know, I don't know if you had done any research on it. We just kind of saw it at our local game store, and it was, you know, as we were walking around for your birthday, just kind of kept coming back to that one.
Well, yeah, it was just, I mean, it's a big box, and we flipped it over, and we're just like, art style's a little, like, you know, cartoonish in a way, but you know, just the game board of it, it just looked so cool.
Yeah, and it was so cool. I mean, it was definitely a happy surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I love kind of the idea of like cellaring. And I feel like there's something similar in viticulture where you're aging the wine.
Yeah,
so it's like a similar kind of
Yeah, because if you're making a brandy, you can't just make it and then sell it. You have to age it for a number of turns.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really difficult because then you don't have money to buy supplies for the next round.
Right. And there's a lot of like risk reward analysis that goes into that. Do you hold out for like the big cash out at the end, or do you go for like short term like selling of like quick alcohols at the beginning? I mean, it's a really interesting game. It was very fun. Yeah, 21 Distilled.
All right. To close out today, my number 21 is another big surprise for me. It was a game that we played for the first time this past year. It's also a game that came out this past year, and that is Earth.
Oh, yeah.
So, I will say, I did not get what I expected out of Earth.
Really?
Because I thought Earth was going to be kind of like a terraforming Mars type of game where you're like, you know, building your tableau and, you know, I also thought a lot more animal cards were going to be featured. Because when I hear Earth, I was thinking that it was going to feature things like animals and plants and, you know, all sorts of things. This is really, a better name for this would probably be soil.
Sure.
Because you're really talking about like a lot of mushrooms and plants that grow out of that. I mean, so when they're talking about Earth, they're not talking about the planet.
They're talking about like Earth, like the dirt.
Right. Yeah. Of course, this is the universal sign for Earth.
Yes.
Don't twist it around though. That's a different sign. But yeah, in Earth, it's a very neat puzzly game where you're building a 4x4 tableau of cards that you can play from your hand. Is it 4x4 or is it 5x5? I don't remember. It's great though. The thing that's super interesting about this game, and the thing that made me fall in love with it, and after we played it the first time, I was like, oh, we have to get this game, is that it's always your turn.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, even when it's not your turn, whoever's turn it is, they get to take a more powerful action of the 4 different types of actions, but everybody else gets to do something with that.
Right. They get to take that same action.
Right. Like and so there's 4 different colors. There's blue, yellow, red, and green. And depending on what action they take, then you also get to fire your engine going from left to right, top to bottom of the cards that you have played. Any that have the red action, if another player chooses red, you get to do all of that stuff.
Right.
So like when we played, I was just mastering compost.
Yeah.
Where like literally anybody would take a certain action, and I would just be taking cards from my hand and be like, I put that away, I put that away, I put that away, I put that away. And then at the end of the game, it's like, okay, now score your compost. My deck was this thick.
You had a lot of combos.
And it was great because, sometimes in those games, especially those like thick card games where you're building a tableau of cards, you just have so many that you're like, well, I'm never going to use any of these because it doesn't fit my strategy.
Yeah.
And so it's great in this one that you can just compost
that there's a way
all
to
of
use them. Yeah.
But yeah, I really adored this game. I cannot wait to play it again.
Yeah.
It's very cool. My number 21 to close us out is Earth. Well, that does it.
That's
so,
it for
the next time we record, we're going to be talking about our top 20. Which is really exciting. I will say there's a couple that I'm still surprised you haven't talked about, especially since I did. And there's a couple that I think are vice versa, ones that I have talked about that you haven't.
Yep.
So yeah, I can't wait to see the rest of your list.
Yeah, same.
So if you can't wait to hear more about the games that we're going to be talking about, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. That way you can find out when we drop our top 20. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.